Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davidson. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to State of the Steelers, and welcome back to the 22nd episode of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel J. Straight from the hospital. I had to go and see what Minka was talking about when he got his appendectomy, and I was in the hospital for the last couple of days, and got out yesterday feeling a lot better. How's it going, Devin?
What's up,
Yes.
Minka?
Yep. I'll tell you what, I feel a lot better today. I had my surgery yesterday. I ain't going to go sprint or run or do any of those things. That was crazy what he was doing. But alongside with me, as usual, Mark Davidson, Steelers Nation Australia. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, man. Well, I've got, I have to be here. I've got no excuse, right? You know what I'm saying? Nothing crazy happened to me in the last few days. We legit did the podcast on my channel, Steelers Nation Australia, and you were talking off air like I'm in a bit of pain, this and this, and I'm like, oh, just give it a night, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And the next minute you've had your appendix, like, so close to blowing up. Like, that is just so crazy to me how that happened so fast.
Dude, it was a whirlwind of like, what? Like, I went in there I went to the doctor just because it'd been a couple of days that I've had the pain. And I was like, I'm just going to go talk to the doc, maybe get something prescribed. I feel like I got a stomach bug. Because my stomach had been feeling kind of funny since Friday, right? And so go in there and they give me a cocktail of Novocaine and my Lanza, and they're like, drink this. If it makes you feel better, then you're good. It's like, all right. So I drank it and I was like, oh man, this is still not making me feel very well. And did a CT scan. They're like, yeah, you got appendicitis. You'll be having surgery. And I was like, I drove myself here. Like, where am I going? It was crazy, man. I didn't expect it to happen. Now I have 3 lacerations or 3 spots in my stomach, and I'm missing an organ. But I'm back. I'm out here, and let's talk some Steelers football, man.
Buddy Devin said, here we go, show. Devin said, Mark Terrell Davison. The one two punch. Hey, he's playing some good football at the moment too. I expect a big game from him too. But yeah, the whole scenario, what you just went through in the last 3 or 4 days now back on the podcast, and just in life terms, man, that's what happens. You know, we're I guess we're YouTube people and the viewers. You know, you got life stuff too, right? Life happens, man. It just blows me away because I thought, nah, you'll be right, you'll be sweet, and then you got this same thing that happened to Minka. And Minka's out there doing jumping jacks.
Yeah, man. That guy, I mean, I'm no pro athlete. I don't have a professional athletic body or do any of those things. I mean, you probably couldn't tell by looking at me. But, I'm no pro athlete, so I understand where he's at. But I'll tell you what, I can guesstimate that he's going to be 100 times better this week going up against Atlanta than he was last week and the week before. There's going to be that improvement. I feel it from one day to the next day. Doc was telling me it's a 2-week to 4-week process till you're back to normal. The fact that he was out there and doing what he was doing, so early, he's probably on the shorter end of that stick. And I think this week against Atlanta, he's going to be more of 100%. He did show up on the injury report with some ribs, right?
It's one thing exactly right. It's one thing we kind of forget too with the injuries in the league. Like, it's week 14. They're not going to be 100%. The fellas tackle each other, really hard all season, and they're going to have, growing injuries throughout the whole process. Like, TJ's dealing with something now. Like, it's not just like, okay, he's out, he broke his arm. No, the KZ's probably got sore wrist still or whatever. Who else is coming back from injury that we know of? Well, Najee Harris.
DeMarvin Leal was just put back onto the roster. And he's going to be playing this week. They put go ahead.
Well, so they're all playing hurt. Like, NFL football players talk about this, like near the end of the season, it gets cold. They're all playing pretty hurt, right? Or no one's really healthy. They're healthy enough to be on the field, but when they're saying they're 100% or they're ready to go, they've still got some like injuries to go. But they got to tough through it. But I'm pretty keen to see the fellas getting back to that level. But they're all hurting right now, and it's they got to play for something.
Oh, for sure. But Akil Weatherspoon, he was finally placed on IR. Do you think? Yeah, he was placed on IR, and DeMarvin Leal was brought back from IR. They basically just did the swap there. I don't understand why he wasn't. Okay. I don't understand why they didn't put him on IR a long time ago. They could have used that spot somewhere else. What do you think about just the game plan that the Pittsburgh Steelers have used their IR with Akil Weatherspoon, or the lack of?
I think I heard somewhere, might have been on BTSC, that he hasn't played since week 3, or something like that, week 4. So I'm not too sure how that happened. So DeMarvin Leal, I heard he came back. So they swapped him in and Witherspoon out, which makes sense, right? That's very interesting to see DeMarvin Leal back too on this defense, where he was playing pretty well before he got injured as well, wasn't he? So that might be a little bit another spark that the Steelers need. Highsmith's going off on the defense. Witherspoon wasn't doing much anyway. So the cornerbacks, Levi Wallace is playing pretty well in some spurts. We're getting interceptions. So this could be a good thing for our defense as well. And TJ Watt, of course, is getting better every week, coming back from his injury. So that's some promising signs for, in my opinion, hopefully a playoff stretch. And I know people will call me out, oh, not going playoffs, but I don't care. It's the way I view the game. You view the game. You want to view the game? I'll view the game I want to view. And I think getting these players back, I think there is a bit more spark around it, because he was fun. I remember the last time I think we saw him playing was he batted down passes, then he got injured after. I'm pretty sure might have been week 3 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, he came back for one game and he was getting torched. I think it was the Philadelphia Eagles game, and he no, was that him that was getting torched? No, that wasn't. That was Levi Wallace. He came back for like a quarter or something in one game, and he was getting torched. And they pulled him out, and he I guess he re-aggravated the hamstring. I just can't remember who it was, but yeah, he came in for like a quarter or two and then was out. But TJ Watt is questionable with some ribs. Malik Reed was on the injury report, was questionable with a back. Jaylen Warren is questionable with a hamstring. Do you think, given how well Benny Snell played, do you think the Steelers risk putting Jaylen Warren this soon after the hamstring? You think they hold him out another week?
That's the funny one, because he was full practice all week, right? And this is why I guess we don't really know what's happening until we see game day. So he was full practice 2 times in a row. Then he was limited. I don't know what they could rest Warren again. But I thought actually going into this week, I thought they're going to rest Najee, play Warren, and then have McFarland and Benny Snell to back up, and then rest Najee Harris for the Ravens. But if your players are available, they'll play them, right? So
yeah,
I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. It was crazy because Najee went out in the last game, and the Steelers were fearing it was a serious injury. Fortunately, it wasn't, but he was a limited participant the entire week. You're absolutely right. And so, for him to be given the elevation to full, going in, do you think that Najee's hurting himself by continuing to play? Nobody's going to play at 100%. We mentioned this before. People are hurt, but he's got some pretty serious injuries, and he's a running back. It's not like he can hide these injuries. He's getting hit every time he touches the ball.
But he doesn't look the same as last year, does he? With a worse O-line in front of him, right? He played a lot better last year. He looks a bit more slower. You've talked about his weight issues. Maybe he's been a bit too bulky. Maybe he's a bit slow off the ball. Benny Snell and McFarland look faster to him off the ball than Najee Harris did. Now, I'm not saying he's a bust or anything like that, but he definitely looks a bit different. Now, like, if you could, here's a question back to you. If you could win this game without Najee, right? Wouldn't you rest him for the Ravens game? That's what I would do as a coach, but I'm not a coach. Like in my Madden set, I would rest him and I'll get him ready, because the Ravens game is going to be massive. They play each other hard, and it's going to be a bruiser of a game. I would rest him and play Warren or play someone else like that. Like dead set. I would, and
not just because of the fact that he's injured, but also when you look at the performance and what a healthy 100% Benny Snell and McFarland can do versus a maybe 80 or 75% Najee Harris, it's not matching up. It's, what I'm saying? You look at the yards per carry, you look at the, I think Benny Snell had like 12 carries for 60 something yards. McFarland also had like a 5.5, 6 yard average, somewhere around there. And so, you look at those things, you look at the output, you look at the performance. I would definitely withhold him at this point until he's a lot healthier. And, if the Steelers do end up making a push at the end of the season, they're going to need to win those games against the Baltimore Ravens, against the Raiders, because at this point, the Steelers have only beaten, the Bengals and the Colts in the AFC. And so their AFC record isn't that great. They've lost to every team in the AFC East. If the Steelers were to dream about making the playoffs, they need to beat the AFC teams. So with that being said, I would definitely try to get him 100% before, that Baltimore Raven game, give him another break, because he did look different coming back off that bye week against the Saints. He looked like his old self. In my opinion, I would think maybe perhaps go that route. But the Atlanta Falcons are dealing with some injuries themselves. Pitts was placed on injured reserve. They have Arnold. Oh man, I can't even pronounce this. Ibikiti.
No idea, dude. What does it start with an E?
Yeah, E-Bike tie.
Let me have a look.
It's E-Bike tie. That's how it's spelled. E-B-I-K-E-T-I-E. E-Bike tie. I don't know. He's questionable with a forearm, outside linebacker. The defensive line, Jalen Dalton, questionable with a toe. And offensive line, Chuma Igdoa, is a knee. He's also questionable. These guys, you got Pitts. These guys, this is a team that is heavily focused on the run. This is a team that even when they're behind, will still continue to run the ball to move forward. Do you think that gives this defense an advantage or a disadvantage, knowing the Steelers haven't been the best at defending the run, but maybe perhaps when they know it's coming, it'll produce a different outcome? What do you think about that?
I think if the Steelers understand that Marcus Mariota can't throw the football around, it's a bit of a carbon copy to a certain degree of Matt Ryan, right? A bit of an older quarterback. If they can stop that run. I think the Falcons running game, I was going to look up the stats, but I think the Falcons running backs and whoever runs the football, if it is Marcus Mariota too, I think a lot of them have like over 200 yards each or 300 yards each. They're running back by committee for sure. Cordell Patterson runs the football pretty well. I think even he does kickoff returns too. So yeah, if you can make it one dimensional, I guess, and play a similar mindset to how they played Matty Ryan, because Taylor did some breaking runs, but there was only really one drive or two drives where the Colts went down the field and scored points. But I can't see. I talked to Matty from Steelers Touchdown Under on BTSC the other day. I can't see Marcus Mariota going out there and throwing 3 TDs against us. I just can't see it. I don't think he's that guy, because he's that rushing quarterback as well, right?
Yeah, and the Steelers have had, and Mariota hasn't been an issue. I mean, I think of mobile quarterbacks that have been an issue. It's that that guy from Cincinnati, a couple years ago we lost to, Finley, maybe. I can't remember his name. Unknown guy, but had some wheels that you weren't expecting to have. Mariota, the Steelers have done well against him when he's been a member of the Tennessee Titans. And so he doesn't worry me. The only thing that does worry me are those running backs. It's one of those things where, you look at some of the games that the Steelers have played, teams have gone away from the run when it's been effective for some reason. This team isn't going to do that. I think that this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is, are going to have to take advantage of the opportunities they have. We cannot be going 3 and out, because, if the Atlanta Falcons can get it going in the running game, then time of possession can be a huge factor if the Steelers are not doing what they need to do with the possessions that they have. And you're also thinking, if Atlanta Falcons are able to maintain possession of the ball with how much they run the ball, that's also going to shrink the amount of opportunities that the Steelers offense is going to get to score.
I tell you what, I just looked up. I tell you what, my best friend is, and I know it's only stats, but stats can paint a picture. My best friend is teamrankings.com. Did you know the Pittsburgh Steelers are 7th in the league for opponent rushing yards per game?
I didn't know that.
They're 104 yards per game, so they've improved from last year, where last year they were 143 yards per game. So, because I did hear I don't know who I listened to. There's so many podcasts out there. Might have been from Steelers.com. One of the fellas there talked about how they have improved, and so they're 7th. So the run game is 100 yards per game, and the best rush defense in the league is San Fran with 79 yards per game. So, I I guess if they can put up against the Falcons, because the Falcons here too with their stats, and this is what's great about seeing a whole bodywork of the season. And you know what? I'm going to ask you a follow-up question in a minute, Daniel. But I don't know who these players are. Like I only watch the Steelers now. I don't watch any other games. It's really bad. Tyler Algier, I have no idea. 552 yards, 4.6 yards average. Cordell Patterson, 506. Marcus Mariota has 421. That's a threat right there. He's averaging 5.1 carry and 29 first downs. That's amazing. Caleb Huntley, 347. Right, so you got 1,900 yards on the ground. But here's my follow-up question: do you watch any other football besides Steelers now? Because I remember when I was a kid, I watched all the games and I knew all the players. I don't really know any players anymore besides the big names.
I've been trying to make an effort this season to watch more football. I catch every Steelers game. That's a given. But yeah, up until this year and the last couple of years, I've kind of gotten away from it, from watching the other teams. So that's why this season when it started, I was like, man, this NFL, there's no Big Ben. The Steelers look different. You start looking at teams across the board and you realize that the entire NFL is changing. And, you got like a lot of people are gone or in different places. And it's a new time and a new league from when, I was I'm still a diehard fan, but when I first became that true Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I understood what the game was about and I understood what was going on, it's definitely a different team. Definitely.
This Tyler guy, I didn't even know. Did you know he's a rookie? He's a fifth rounder.
No,
Tyler Allgeier, fifth rounder. That's not bad for a fifth rounder. He's got 500 yards and 1 touchdown rushing attempt. So that's 5.4 yards average. Now, this can maybe cause a bit of debate. What are your thoughts about, grabbing a guy like that in the 5th round, whereas we grabbed Najee Harris in the 1st round? Would that not be a clear example of like you can get the same productivity with a different guy at round 5?
I mean, if you look at what our running backs did this year so far compared to Najee, you look at Benny Snell's last game, you look at McFarland getting it going. I think that has more to do with the fact that the Steelers have finally got an offensive line that's starting to gel together. And so, yeah, I was hoping, or not hoping, I predicted the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to get Najee in the draft. I thought they were going to go that route. I wanted Najee. I think he's a fantastic player. But hindsight being what it is and looking back, I think that value there is potentially, when you look at what Warren, who's an undrafted guy, has been able to do, Snell with the right offensive line finally getting, together, McFarland getting a few yards, you start to think maybe perhaps he overpaid a little bit and maybe could have gotten a center or another position at that point. But you can't change it now. And so you can only hope that Najee becomes what he was and goes forward. And I think he will. Everybody talks about a sophomore slump sometimes. And I think that's what Najee's going through at this point. He's had the injury. He got bulkier instead of lighter. And so, those are almost, I don't want to say mistakes, but those are all learning experiences. That way next offseason, he's probably going to come in a little bit lighter, more explosive, faster, and better taking care of his body. I'm not saying that he wasn't taking care of his body before, but he probably understands what he did wrong. Maybe perhaps he overtrained, and he can get, better understanding of what it is to be a professional football player another year in. I mean, it's just another experience for him. And like I said, I think he's got the talent and the skill to get it going. And once this offensive line has really been together for a little bit longer and has gelled for this entire year, I think, they're going to continue to make strides.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think Najee can get back at it too. But you're right. Maybe he does need to rest a little bit for this game. But it will be. I think the Steelers are going to play him anyway because that's what they always do. They play their best players no matter what if they're near healthy. But it's going to be interesting too to see if Warren is out or whoever's out, who's going to back up. Because I would like to see the rush load go again to McFarland and go again to Benny Snell. If they're going to play the same way, well then why not? Because we're running the football quite well and it's helping our offense move the football down the field and it's helping Kenny Pickett too. So
for sure.
I reckon that'd be cool.
George Teston says, does Desmond Ridder dress for the Falcons? I believe he does. I think he's their backup, their second string. You need to see him come in. Yeah. Maybe I'd rather face Mariota, to be honest with you. The Steelers have put a good resume, good tape out there against Mariota, and so I'd like to see Ritter stay on the bench. Not that I'm worried about him or anything like that.
Has Ritter played this year? This is one of the teams that probably really I don't look at all because the NFC South Falcons, right? I'm not even sure if he's even played. Has he played? I don't know if he's played.
I don't think he's played. He played in preseason, and apparently he did look impressive in preseason.
But he hasn't played. No, he hasn't played in normal season. So Marcus Mariota has 12 games, 276, 2,000 yards, 14 TDs and 8 interceptions, and 421 yards on the ground, and 4 TDs. So, he's not playing bad either. But they're 5-7. So,
yeah, and they're only like one game or a game and a half behind the Buccaneers, something like that. And Buccaneers are in first place, so they're fighting for a divisional. A divisional title here. And so, they're not going to come in here, or we're not going to go in there. And
this game might be hard. And I think looking at his stats now, they're pretty good. Like they're pretty good stats that I talked about with again, Maddie on BTSC, how I talked about how Kenny's got some first down in the rushing game, but Marcus Mariota has double that. So they're using him in the rush game. In the passing game, he's finding his receivers. Now he hasn't got Kyle Pitts anymore, but he's linking up with Drake London too. I think he's got 2 TDs. So this could be a game that's I don't know. Maybe they could score some points. This is a TJ game for sure. Someone to step up, but I didn't realize how well Marcus Mariota was playing and taking command of the offense. 14 TD is pretty good.
How many games has Boz missed? Is this his 4th game?
Ooh,
this is his 4th, right?
This might be the last game. I think. Okay. I think this is I think they can they're gonna have to drop. They can drop Wright. And then bring him back, I think. So he might be back for the Ravens game. I think so.
We're going to need him
if he's healthy.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need him for that game. I've seen him on the sideline. He's walking around. He looks good. But, this is going to be a tough game. It's not going to be as easy as, as their record indicates. They're a heavy run team. And, you're right. The Steelers have done better against the run this year. But not many teams have really dedicated themselves to it. A lot of teams have exploited this passing defense. And so it's going to be a good game. I think this is going to be a good game for the Steelers, but I still have faith that the Steelers are going to pull this one out. I think that, you look at the Steelers, if they're able to put up some points, and that's going to be the key objective is they're going to have to turn around the field goals and turn those into 6 points. Because if they allow the Falcons to stay in this game and run the ball and continue to do their game plan, it's going to get close at the end. And I for one want to have a relaxing Sunday.
Do you think this is to me, it's another week where it's a hype up. We haven't won back to back. Do you think this is a monumental game where they have to win this one? Because, the questions will arise yet again. The firing of Tomlin, all this stuff. As soon as they lose again, it's all like it's the big crash, Right. And to get better from the bye, there are 2-1 after the bye. The Bengals beat them, sure. They beat the Saints. They beat the Colts. Is this one they have to take care of and be 3-1 after the bye? Not just for the playoffs. It's just to me, just to get for a team to get better and for chances next year where you are seeing progression with Kenny Pickett, progression with Pickens. Sure, he's made a few bonehead plays with that tackle on the ground, but he's played better in his routes and finding the football, and moves getting better. The O-line's got better too, and just, what I'm trying to say is this the game where it's like if they let this slip, like the momentum will just die, right? Completely. In my opinion.
I think they have to win, and not so much for playoffs or for anybody to calm down the noise, but because I think that's the next step that this team needs to make. Like I said before, when we went into the bye, when we were leaving the bye, what I needed to see out of the Steelers was 5-4. I wasn't expecting, at the bye they were 2-6. So, that would have put the Steelers in at 7-10. And so that's not a winning record by any means or anything like that. That's not a playoff contending team. But that was a team, in my opinion, that would be trending in an upward direction. So at this point, they're 2-1. The next step is to win 2 games in a row. It's to stack a win, to go out there and show positive, movement and progression. 2 weeks ago against the Bengals, the Steelers came out and played a fantastic first half, and then blew it in the second half. Right. This past week against the Colts, kind of something similar. They had some good momentum going in the first half. Third quarter, they disappeared, came back into fourth quarter. It would be great to see this team play a full game this week, transition into that, and stack a win. I think that's the next step that they need to do in their progression, and to go 3-1 out of the bye. That is turning some heads, and that is getting the needle maybe pointing in the right direction. But as far as playoffs and those things go, I'm not saying that this game is important for that, because this is an NFC team. It's not like, it's going to be tough regardless, but this is an NFC team. So if the Steelers were to lose this game, it's not going to completely kill them. They definitely would have to win out. But, for me, and I guess for the Steelers players and everybody, the fan base, seeing the Steelers get on a little bit of a streak, I think is the next step forward. What do you think?
I think it'd just be like it's that feeling of like you would see progress actually change is happening. With Kenny's progress and the team and the run game too, and even Benny Snell and some of the players that you follow, or Anthony McFarlane having a chance to. You see the development, like you'd see it from last week. I thought they kicked ass. I thought it was a great game. I thought it was one of Kenny's best half, and I thought the play calling was pretty good. And I've been on Matt Canada's bum for ages, right? But I thought he's called a good game. Hasn't called a full game yet, but the third quarter was atrocious. But that's a part of football, because if we get a kickoff return, then the Colts fans are really salty, right? So it goes either way. So I just think it would be good to see if it's a competitive game. If it is I've got 24-17 again, actually. Same score, similar score, coming down the wire, but 17-17, we score a field goal, we get a TD near the end, or you get a you're going to want to see players like Edmonds step up, and they did in the other game too. Millette came down the box. The defensive scheme was cool to see. Cameron Sutton was in there. Millette got a sack. So there's guys like that I think can make some splash plays. They can stop the run, then give Kenny a chance and the offense a chance to go score some points. Maybe get up by 10 and go to the halftime with a lead and see what can happen, and then really change the culture a bit, because I think this football locker room has been a bit of a losing culture. I think for the last, 5 years, 4 years, they can get some big wins, but this is the one where you've got to really back it up. And I'm like, playoffs is still a big pipe dream. So in my mind, I'll think about the scenarios and I'll play the ESPN playoff predictor. It's really fun, by the way. If we do win this game, the Jets need to lose and the Bengals need to lose, then we're 2 games away from 6th and 7th. But you got to win this game. That's the big thing. They got to be focused. Focus on Mariota. Focus on the run game. If DeMarvin Leal's back, that'd be fantastic to put him back in the piece with Montravius Adams and the big fellas up front. Be good to see.
Here's the thing about that though: DeMarvin Leal is a better pass rusher than he is a run blocker, in my opinion. I think that Loudermilk is the better run stuffer than the pass rusher.
And field goal blocker too. He got the field goal block.
He did, and I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be getting into the end zone very often. So, I would limit Leal in this game just because of the fact that he's been out for a month. He hasn't played competitive football since then. They activated him as soon as they did. I don't know if he practiced at all this week. I know you can practice, but I don't know if he did. And so, he's still a rookie, regardless of how good he looked before. I think it would be we shouldn't expect him to play majority of the snaps. I would anticipate Loudermilk still being and given a helmet in this game. Do you think that Miles Jack and do you think that Miles Jack and Bush are going to take majority of the snaps here? Last week, Robert Spillane was out, but Robert Spillane is is kind of a run guy. Who do you think is going to be the tandem out there the most?
Depends if he's healthy or not. I don't know if he's healthy again. So I think to me they've been a bit like, I don't know if I'm watching the wrong game, but to me they've been a bit invisible out there sometimes. I don't know. I thought Miles Jacks gets in the backfield a fair bit. I don't know if that's to do with the D line or D lines, taking up all the holes, but you don't see too many splash plays like Mike Tomlin talks about from Devin Bush, do you, this year? But maybe he's not playing that role this year.
I think he's done better this year, but he's expected to be the Robin this year, and not the Batman. And so I think he's done pretty decent in that position and doing that well. But I don't think he's going to be here next year. I think you're going to stick with Miles Jack. I think maybe perhaps you address the middle linebacker position with one of those three, top probably 50 picks or so.
Is Devin Bush a free agent next year? Is he one of them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're not going to tag him. There's no way they're tagging him.
Do you think they say, see you later, mate. Good luck. Go check out the scene, and then we'll get a new guy in.
Maybe they might do the Terrell Edmonds where they say, all right, go test the market. And then if you don't get anything, we'll give you $2 million a year, less than Marcus Allen. And so that's what they did to Terrell Edmonds.
He could find another job somewhere else in the NFL for sure, being a middle linebacker. But I guess it depends on what direction they want to go. Of course, they're going to keep Miles Jack there, but you're right. What if they went out and got another middle linebacker? That'd be interesting to feed off Jack, because you can't. I guess Splain's a guy too. They're just a guy on teams as well. But I don't know. I'm intrigued because I think he's lost a bit of spark. Now I did see there was a video I saw on Twitter, right? And he wasn't even in the play, but he was I think he was taking out a blocker. And that was fantastic. Like his physicality was awesome, but I haven't seen any plays around the football. But there was one I think was coming on I think it was he had to go for the blocker, so then someone else got the tackle. Now I like that stuff. I like that stuff. Like it doesn't matter if you get the blocker first and someone else gets the tackle. That's fantastic. So maybe I need to go back and watch a bit more film or whatever, or look at the highlights and stuff. But I just haven't seen him around the ball too much. But maybe the defense hasn't gone that direction. But that would be very interesting to see if he would be a Steeler next year.
For sure. Mr. Malibu says, I think people are really not seeing the smoke screen. Let's talk about the last two games, less throwing and more running. So that means Kenny is improving. Kenny has done game in and out. I've read a couple of things. He's kind of saying that Kenny's not done better or whatnot. And I'm not been the biggest Kenny Pickett fan. We probably all know that. I think he's done better. I think some of the throws he's made and some of the things that I wanted to see as far as that 2-point conversion play that he had to George Pickens was
pretty good.
One of the plays I wanted to see. But asking a rookie quarterback to throw the ball more than 30 times is probably not a successful winning formula. If we go back and look at Ben's rookie year, he averaged 187.2 yards a game. He threw less than 30 times a game, and the running team helped him out. You look at the year the Steelers won the Super Bowl, and he threw for under 200 yards a game. He threw at 198.8. Again, that year, the Steelers lost 3 games while he was playing. And in that year, those games were the games where he was throwing the ball more than 30, 35 times, something like that. In fact, there was a stat that if the Steelers threw the ball or he threw the ball more than 35 times, Steelers weren't winning for a while. I'm not concerned about that. My concerns when it came with Kenny Pickett was the arm strength and the ability to make deep ball throws down the field. My concern was always the improvement and seeing where he can go. I've seen a lot of them, I wouldn't say a lot of improvement. I've seen improvement. I've seen steps in the right direction. I've seen throws that he made in this past game that were very well. I mean, you look at the ball that he threw to George Pickens in the 2-point conversion. That was a great throw, and he should have had 2 touchdowns in this game. George Pickens didn't have 2 hands on the ball, and it slipped out of his hand. And Deontay Johnson had a drop in the end zone. Those were 2 touchdowns he should have had, and that would have also, in those situations, I don't remember what was the outcome of those drives. I think one of them was still a touchdown. I think one of them turned into a field goal. But, you do those things, and the momentum goes in the right direction, and people aren't talking about the fact that he hasn't thrown, the fact that, he hasn't thrown any interceptions. He hasn't only thrown like 1 touchdown, too. I think that multiple touchdown game was there last week. And that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a multiple touchdown game. And when I talked about what I wanted to see from him, it wasn't so much outcome based, but the production on the field. And it's not his fault that those 2 receivers dropped the ball. He put the ball where he
I
needed
thought
to
there
put.
was a chance that DJ could have got that one in the end zone. I thought there was a chance as well that GP could have got it. Of course, maybe it could have been a better throw, but there could have been also two hands. You know, it's two to the table, right? But I think as well, and I talked about this with Matty too on BTSC on Steelers Touch and Under. I think Kenny's run game is really picked up, and it's really exciting to see. The best play I saw was that quarterback draw. I thought that was fantastic. Like him and the play calling was like nobody expected that at all. The seas parted, ran up the guts for 8 yards. So I reckon he's improved. I reckon he's improving overall.
So Mr. Malibu says we weren't with Kenny throwing 50 plus times a game. Now it's a lot due to the run. And no, Daniel, he was doing that when he was throwing 60 times a game. That's not improving. That's less showing. Well, you know, if you can add the last 3 games since the bye, and add up all his attempts, I'm pretty sure that's more than 60 times, and that's still no interceptions. So that is improvement. You know, that is improvement.
Definitely.
And I'm not, like I said, I'm not the biggest. We all know that I think Kenny can, you know, I want to see more out of him. There was a lot of things that I said that were probably taken out of context, but I've not, like I said, I've been a little bit critical of Kenny Pickett, and I can still say, there we go. That's where I want to look. I've been a little bit critical about Kenny Pickett, but I still can say at the same point, not throwing in interceptions, protecting the ball, making smart decisions with the ball. And this team gathering an identity is what this team needs to do. You have running backs and you have an offensive line that is gelling together, and they're looking good. Why take away from what's working? Give this young quarterback 100%. A time to grow.
Yeah, and they're starting to learn, I guess, to win with Kenny too. A fourth quarter. Wait, was it fourth quarter comeback? Yeah, we won the fourth quarter, right? They scored in the fourth quarter, didn't they? Last week.
Yeah. It was his first fourth quarter comeback win.
Yeah. So I actually see a little bit of confidence around him too. For a rookie as well, I see him like a bit of a confident guy in the locker room that he wants to go out there and win. But here's the big question. The big question every time we win is, can they back it up? That is all this stuff we're saying now, left or right or whatever. Is he progressing or not? If he goes out and throws a duck egg, then you're back to square one. So you want to see him out there.
Not necessarily. I mean, everybody is going to have a bad game. Like Kenny Pickett's going to have a multiple interception game again in his career. Like if we are expecting him to never throw an interception again and throw multiple touchdown games, then we're setting ourselves up for extreme failure.
I'm not saying interception. I just want to say like this game is to, I guess, to quiet some people too, and just let him go out and just see progress, you know. Mm-hmm. But what we've seen every time after a win is, I guess, versing hard opponents too doesn't really help. You know, the Buffalo Bills, the Eagles, stuff like that. This is a game that I think you can go there and win. And it would be fantastic to see this offense clicking, run game moving, play action, Kenny running, passing to GP, getting the football to Deontay stepping off his right foot going forward, Frymouth getting involved, like what we saw last week. And I think just the continuation of that in the full 60 minutes, like you've talked about, that would be great to see to go back to back in preparation for the Ravens, because these 2 games with 6 games to go, I think it's going to be super crazy. And I think if Kenny can but he's learning too as well. He's learning, isn't he? You know,
yeah.
There are times now he knows when to run out of bounds. He's not going to throw that pass to was it the Dolphins? He threw that bad pass. That was awful.
He threw a bad pass. Dolphins, Bills. There's been a couple, but at the end of the day, he's had less of those arid throws, less of those throws that ended up in like, what are you doing kind of questions. Like the one against the Bills to Deontay Johnson right before the half, he threw it right to the guy. That one was kind of, you know, questionable. There was one against, I want to say it was the Saints game, maybe. It may have been the Cincinnati Bengals game after a big return from Sims. He threw it and it should have been a pick. It was dropped. But outside of that, I think that was the only time that he should have had a pick since coming back. And, I think he's improving. I think the decision-making is there. I wanted to see him push the ball down the field a little bit more, and he was able to do that. He had that, deep throw to George Pickens that was a little bit back shoulder at the same time that he was able to get in. I like the placement of that ball. Now, it wasn't a dome, so I want to see that happen outside. You know, this week against the Atlanta Falcons, this one's also going to be in a dome, so that's going to be another positive for him. The following week is at home against the Ravens. That's going to be a physical matchup outside in the elements.
Big time.
That's where I also want to see the improvement. I expect Kenny Pickett to improve in this game because he won't have to deal or worry about the weather conditions in this game.
He's playing the Ravens too, a divisional opponent for the the Ravens for the first time. So then they're one of the hardest divisional opponents, them and the Bengals.
Yeah, this is going to be a good physical matchup. The Ravens are going to throw everything at him. They know he's a rookie quarterback. They got a solid defense. So, and they know what the Steelers like to do. When you're playing AFC division opponents, those games, you're not going to trick people unless you do a flea flicker. If it works, everybody likes it. And if it doesn't, everybody calls for the coordinator's head. And so,
including me, he needed to be fired on the spot. My issue was like after a big play, I was like, just do something else. But also they also hurried up, right? I hurried up to the thing and I was like, the big play happened, and then straight away you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it is. But in my opinion, when you're aggressive, I like to see a team that's aggressive. What's Mike Tomlin saying? I'd rather say whoa than sick 'em. And so, you want that also out of your play calling and your.
You think Mike Tomlin's thinking about this record? I think he is.
About his record
or his legacy
being the 500 thing. I'm sure he doesn't want to lose that. I'm sure that's something that's pretty awesome. But I think more than anything, I think he wants to make this team into the playoffs. I mean, could you imagine if this team made it to the playoffs being 2-6 at the bye week? Rookie quarterback not looking good. Offense not looking good. Everybody calling for people's heads as far as coaching and stuff. To turn it around and make the playoffs, that would be an accomplishment. Go ahead.
Well, sorry, we can get there by week 16. I figured it out. So if the Bengals lose every game, 3 games in a row, Ravens lose 3 games in a row, we can be winning the division 7-7.
You think we can win the division where?
I said we can be leading. We can be leading the division 7-7 after week 16 if the Ravens lose 3 in a row and the Bengals lose 3 in a row.
Well, the Ravens losing 3 in a row is going to be difficult. Who do they have this week?
They got the Broncos.
Oh gosh.
And they have the Falcons.
Yeah.
And they have the Browns and the Bengals have the Chiefs.
The Bills.
Two other harder games. Yeah, the Bills. So we need Russ Wynn to eat those sandwiches, man. Those Subways.
Russell Wilson needs to cook.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's gonna be tough, dude. That's my biggest concern about this division is how easy the schedule is for the Ravens. The
Ravens have it, man. To be honest, they have it. But I was watching another bloke on YouTube the other day, Ingravens, I think his name is, something like that. He was talking about they're a bit nervous though because they squandered the lead. They haven't had any. They keep squandering the fourth quarter. And they're not really impressed by Lamar Jackson. They don't know if they're going to pay him or not, stuff like that. So they don't want to, lose this big lead in the AFC North. I think the Bengals have a good chance. If the Bengals beat the Chiefs, man, they have a good chance to win the North, like big time. But we'll have to see because I think the Ravens sit in the spot. They have the Denver Broncos are playing awful, like absolutely awful in offense. They can't score anything. So I think they're in the lead now.
The problem with the Chiefs game is that Jamar Chase is coming back, I think, this game, and the Chiefs are down a couple of cornerbacks. And so their secondary's hurting. And so that's where it's like, geez. They got their weapons back, and you're going up against a weaker opponent. But, yeah, you look at the Ravens. They have the Broncos, they have the Steelers, the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers, and then they ended off with the Bengals. And so the Bengals have to lose, 3 also, right?
3, yeah. We need the Browns to help us out. This is for the division. We still have a chance for the wild card too. But we got to win this week. That's the thing.
That's true. It's one game at a time.
Exactly. And if you're a player too, you talked about it. You don't just want to win for the playoffs. You want to win just to win. You know what I mean? You want to win back to back for the improvement of the team, to the cohesion, the brotherhood, that kind of stuff, man. That's what you want. Winning feels good. Losing doesn't feel good. So you want them to build that chemistry. And I think I saw Kenny Pickett on Grilled and Chillin' the other day. Did you see that with the fellas, Gentry and
yeah.
It's so awkward, but it's like great. He's cooking like hot. He asked the question. I don't get this. He asked, "Did you like your hot dogs rare, medium rare, or cooked?" And I was like, "You cook hot dogs the full way. You don't do it rare. That's gross."
Have you noticed that the hot dogs on the grill are still packaged?
Yeah. But
I
so
think
I
it's
want to see,
hilarious.
I want to see that on the field where they're connecting the scoring point. I think we all do. We want to see a high flying offense, a competitive offense where it can go out there, have fun, and win games. Like we would love to see 28-13, right? Wouldn't you love to see that, or 35 to something?
Yeah. No, yeah, we
Could be, I
definitely
don't know.
would.
We don't know until we see it too. I'm excited, man. I'm hyped up now. It's gonna be my 5 a.m. again because this is the year that I get no afternoon games for me. But 5 a.m. you'll be out there throwing tables around.
Oh, dude, I'm still on the bench today.
Yeah, how are you gonna? Can you get excited? Are you allowed to laugh?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be hurting a little bit tomorrow if the Steelers are doing well. Because I get super excited when they do well. When they do bad, I'm like, oh man, I'll sit down. But when they do good, I break lamps apparently. So the Bengals have the Chiefs, the Browns, the Bucks, the Patriots, Bills, and then the Ravens. They can lose the Chiefs, the Bills, Bucks, and Patriots. I don't know about those two games. I don't know. Maybe Tom Brady will have one more for old time's sake. But we're getting here a little bit long in the tooth. What is your score prediction for this game, Mark?
I said the other day, this is more being the recap of our podcast on BTSC with Maddie, but I said 24-17. I just get that feeling. I think it's going to be something real close, but I would love to see a breakout game and just open it up. Running game wise, TDs. I would love to see 31-13. But I'll stick with 24-17. Same score as last week.
I think the Steelers are going to handle business again. I think the Steelers score 24 as well. I think that the Falcons get 10. And so I think this is 10 points. Yes, sir.
Ooh, wow.
I think this defense is getting better and healthier. And I can tell you that Minkah Fitzpatrick probably feels a lot better than he did a week ago. Definitely better than he did 2 weeks ago. And I anticipate him being a factor in this game as well.
Same with the outside linebackers. Highsmith too. He's like the most underrated man in Pittsburgh right now. Almost 10 sacks. No one talking about him. TJ, bit quieter, but getting back healthier. He wants to win, right? He can probably smell blood in the water. A lot of guys on that defense now. Terrell Evans coming down the box. Kazi playing better. I think something's brewing to a certain bit, but we want to see it. Like if they can take care of business, then if they play a good game against Ravens, I'll be checked in. Be more checked in.
That would be amazing, dude.
Benny Snell football, exactly. Can he back it up too, man? Big time. This team's fun now. It's looking like a bit of fun.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But with that being said, Mark, let everybody know where they can find you. I think we're on In Hindsight next, and then yours again, right?
Yes. So the post game will be Nathan from In Hindsight. Check the description below. You can click his channel to go sub to him. Make sure you do, and then sub to me as well on Steeler Nation Australia. Over 1,000, which is fantastic. But I'll be streaming the game tomorrow at 5 a.m. I don't get up otherwise, but for football games I do. And it's Steelers versus Falcons. Mike Tomlin has never lost against the Falcons. Another big game. But the key thing is to me, can they back it up? Can we see the same progression we finished with the game to the defense starting hot, offense starting well, and let's just see what happens because this team is the Falcons team. Looking at the stats and they are run heavy, so it's we need to stop that and stop Marcus Mariota.
Yep, we sure do.
I reckon they can win. They can win, man. They can win.
I'm not too concerned about this one. It's the next game that has me a little worried. But, no game is easy. And before we look on to the Ravens, we got to take on the Falcons. So we got two birds in a row. We'll kill two birds with one stone. Let's go. With that being said, guys, we're the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. Y'all have a great night. Peace.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davidson. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go!